Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing this 2014 Triumph Tiger 800 whilst my motorbike is in for service. You can't really tell from this video, but the bike was in an awful state and it looked like it had been washed or cleaned for some time, so I'm going to look to rectify that. But let's get underway. So here's the bike back at my house, having had a good clean. As you can see, it looks a lot better now. But for the basic stats, this is an 800cc inline triple, which is what Triumph do best. So the first test I'm going to do is the lugging around test, as I call it. Trying to manoeuvre it around my small garden to put into my shed, where I store my motorbike normally. Being an 800, it's a physically bigger bike than my own. There's a bit more of a effort required to move it around. But as you can see, because it is physically bigger, I have to adjust the way I put it into my shed and the way I secure it. I did manage it, but as you can see there, hoisting it off its centre stand, it is quite a heavy beast. But as with all big bikes, once they're moving, they're fairly easy to manoeuvre. Just don't lose your balance. The next big test is being able to manoeuvre it out of my narrow gate. This involves having to lean the bike from one side to the other and taking the entire weight on one leg. As you can see, it's doable, but a bit fiddly. There's a lot of low end torque, and doing this slow speed manoeuvring was really easy, and the bike didn't feel cumbersome in any way. At 5'7", even when stopped at station traffic, I could still flat foot it, so I felt quite secure at all times. So hopefully in this part of the video you'll be able to see it's quite a large frontal area in this motorbike. But what I found noticeable was, even with a large windshield, there was quite a lot of buffet from my shoulders to the top of my head, and quite a lot of buffeting on my lower legs. Whilst it's not off-putting, it's just a bit distracting at times, but I would expect it for such a large bike to have a less turbulent air behind the windscreen. Hopefully the video is also giving you an indication this road is really bumpy, and whilst it looks like that on the camera, I can assure you while sat in the seat I didn't feel any of those bumps at all. So I had the motorbike for 4 days and I rode it in the good weather, in rain and in extremely thick fog, and I thought I'd just share my observations with you. So we'll start with the downsides, and the first one being for me is just the size and weight of this motorbike. It's that physically heavy that I couldn't even get it up onto its centre stand, which is quite a significant thing for someone of my height. As I just mentioned previously, the big thing about this bike was, for such large frontal area, there was a lot of buffeting around my upper chest and helmet area. I think if I were to buy this bike, I would probably invest in a different windscreen. But also I got a lot of buffeting around my lower legs, so maybe there'll be some kind of wind deflector I could put at the bottom, again if this were my bike. And bearing in mind this is a 2014 bike, there were no heated handguards or seat, which I thought would have been probably quite an obvious thing for a touring bike. The next thing I found was when I went to change gear, my foot is physically quite small. When it's on the footrest, I had to have my heel right on the edge of the footrest in order to be able to engage properly and change gears. I don't have this issue on my street triple, and yet I was wearing the same shoes. My final negative I've got on this bike really is when I got it, it had no fuel in it, so I had to fill it up to brimming. And after only done 30 miles, it was already indicating a quarter of the tank had gone. So again, fairly heavy on fuel usage if you want to get a 2014 model. I suspect newer versions may have better fuel economy.
However, on the positives, this bike does have a lot.
the best thing for me is this seat. Now, whilst my street triple is really comfortable, this seat is on another level, and I could imagine myself being on that seat for a good 3 or 4 hours before I needed to have a rest. It is a very, very comfortable bike. Being an 800 triple, obviously it's got a beautiful triple whine, but it's got a lot of torque in the mid-range, so it's really, really good for doing your classic motorway cruising, being able to just overtake. But once you get above about 6,000 RPM, it is a bit gutless, but it's exactly where you need it for the motorway. And for such an ugly exhaust, it does make a really nice noise, so that's good. And the final 2 points to this are the mirrors are quite stalky, but very, very good. And for used price on these, you're looking at about £3,000, £4,000. So for an everyday usable bike, it's absolutely brilliant. So in summary, if I had some spare cash lying around, would I buy one of these? Absolutely. I'd make a few modifications to overcome some of the negatives, but it's a great bike. However, I still really love my street triple, so I'm going to be holding on to that one for the foreseeable future. Anyway, thank you for watching, see you in the next video.